Hello, 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 everybody. It's Susie McMahon with my friend, artist, author, and getaway guest and blog writer, Donette Lee, is here with me tonight for Virtual Book Club. Donette, I'm going to let you say hi to everybody while I make sure that our stream is happening where it's supposed to be happening. Just say hi to everybody real
Hello,
quick.
everybody. So
Hi,
nice
everybody.
to be here. Thank you, Susie.
You are so welcome. And it looks like things are happening and people are rolling in. We're meeting a little late tonight because we didn't want to run interference with our friends over at the Pat Conroy Literary Center. They had a wonderful author on tonight, and I was just watching that streaming going on. But y'all, I'm going to introduce you to Donette Dunaway Lee. Her friends are rolling in, and I'm just going to read her bio / the back of your cover, if you don't mind, Donette.
Okay.
Donette's love of beauty and adventure could only be fully explored when retirement provided the time and opportunity to pursue those passions. She offers her stories and illustrations in this book, Hither and Yon, hoping to entice her readers to venture forth and find beauty for themselves. Collected from her library of watercolor sketchbook journals, she regales the reader with little tidbits from her journeys and pictures painted on the go. Katie has joined us. She's from Charleston. Hey, Katie. From getting lost in foreign cities to losing purses and cameras, from traveling by ship, plane, bus, and train, to slowly wandering by car through the mountains, her stories and beautiful watercolor sketches bring those experiences to life. And at times funny, often poignant, these tales of world travel are fresh and appealing. Donette is a native Mississippian living in Hiram, Georgia, who continues to look for new places to travel. Welcome, Donette.
Thank you, Susie.
You're welcome. Yeah. And speaking of places to travel, can you share with everybody how you and I met?
Yes. When Donna Armour, my friend in Beaufort, posted on the Facebook page that there was going to be a literary and leisure getaway featuring my favorite author, Pat Conroy. I said, it was months and months ahead. And I said, well, I'm going to do that. And so when you opened up the registration, I was lying in a hospital bed recovering from surgery. And I said, but she's only going to take 14 people. So I got to get my deposit in. And I PayPal'd from the hospital. And then we met and we had a wonderful, wonderful trip.
Yeah, it was so enjoyable, and the energy that you brought to the getaway was so phenomenal, and you've just inspired me, and I just love learning from you, Donette.
Thank you.
And I was wondering if you could just share with everyone watching. And by the way, Linda from Madison, Mississippi is here. Sue and Trisha are here. And Katie's here, and a bunch of other folks. You guys feel free to add in the comments where you're watching from. I would love that. But could you tell us a little bit about what was the inspiration behind writing this little memoir?
Okay.
Hither and Yon.
Well, when I retired, I knew I wanted to do two things. One was to study art, and the other one was to travel. And those two, several years after that, they converged when I went to a watercolor workshop in Cashers at the High Hampton Inn, and a Charleston artist was conducting a watercolor workshop, Maggie Hoyback. And by the way, any of you Charlestonians, if you run into Maggie, please tell her that she set me on a totally new path. So, and by the way, she has gorgeous watercolors in the East Bay Gallery, if that's a shout out. But so anyway, during that workshop, she said she was going to take a group of artists to the south of France. And so 3 of us from Mississippi signed up to go with her. And so what I thought I might do, well, we flew into Marseille, and Maggie and her husband Pete met us at the airport. And in the book, I have a chapter called The Story Behind the Sketchbooks. And so if it's okay, I'll just read from that and it'll tell you about how I got where I wound up.
Yes, please.
Okay. Finally, making it to our hotel, we were ready to sit by the pool, drink wine, and view Maggie's sketchbooks. Our instruction began immediately. She explained to us that we would be expected to take our sketchbooks with us everywhere, making sketches, notes, observations, collecting tickets, labels, and postcards, in addition to pages of actual watercolors of our own. The first thing to put in the book was a blank calendar like this with, let me see, here it is. You put the dates of your trip in that calendar, and every day you make little notes about where you were that day so you don't forget what happened because it's going so fast. Okay, back to the book. A van would pick us up each morning to take us to a different village where Maggie would give a demonstration to illustrate various watercolor techniques. She pointed out that the sidewalk cafes were ideal for doing our sketches. All we needed to do was order a pot of tea, and the wait staff would let us stay outside all afternoon to paint to our heart's content. We also carried small collapsible stools that allowed us to perch in any convenient spot to get the right view for our sketches. All of Maggie's little tips have given me a foundation not only for my artwork, but also for every trip that I have taken since then. From Maggie, I learned to really see what was in front of me. If I had not sketched the unusual shapes of the ice cream dishes served on the hotel chairs, I would no longer remember the delicious citron et menthe chocolat that was so refreshing on a hot afternoon. And how fabulous it is to have images of Cézanne's studio, where we were forbidden to take our cameras. Many times I have been reminded of the door that was 2 stories tall and 2 feet wide, which had been built to transport his enormous canvases out of the studio. I will be forever grateful to Maggie for giving me such a basic understanding of travel journals and helping me to see the endless possibilities that they afford. All these many years later, I can return to those experiences with much more passion than I ever could with a photograph album. I now have sketchbooks from every trip I have taken. So, fast forward to 2014. I'm sitting and looking at that shelf of sketchbooks, and they're one of a kind, and nobody's read them. My daughters look at them, oh, save those, save those. But it occurred to me that I could probably lift my stories and my sketches and get the best ones put together on my computer. And once I arranged everything, I shot it away and self-published it. So that's the sketchbook. I mean, the book itself.
The inspiration, Donna, I love that. And I had a follow-up question from Karen, Karen Weesey down in Texas. She said, were you already an artist at some point in your life, or did you learn from scratch in that class?
When I was a child, I was scribbling and doodling and drawing on my homework and drawing during class, and my teachers were scolding me. So I made posters. I did all that kind of stuff, but I never was able to take lessons because I was, trying to make a living. So
So a few of your friends have joined. Shoshana wanted to say hi.
Oh,
Carolyn
hey.
has joined us. Lisa Browning has joined us. Marietta Lee Flood, Lorraine Lee Oaks. You are
Those are my children.
making record attendance here. And Peggy Miller. I could go on and go on. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you're here tonight with us during our talk with Donette in our virtual book club. I may have to hop up and close the window because now all the dogs in the neighborhood are barking. What kind of supplies do you travel with? And I will have you answer, and I am going to close my window. I'll be right back.
Okay.
What kind of supplies do you travel with?
All right. I'm glad that Susie told me she was going to ask that, because I just decided it was easier to show you than to talk about it. Somewhere along the way, I got this little pouch. It's got you can put it around your waist and carry it that way. In the back of it, I carry a portable palette. I fill it with, fresh paint. And this is all the paint you need. The palette goes in the back of the pouch. So here we go. Inside, there's room for everything else you need, except the sketchbook. You have the sketchbook out. But the favorite tool that I take is a water brush that you fill the barrel with water, and then you don't even have to worry about carrying water with you when you're outside. That and you can see the sketch in the pouch. You've got places to put these things. You want a good pencil and a really good artist eraser, because you're sketching on the fly, going fast. You need a good eraser. And I always use a really good fine point waterproof pen, because that takes care of a lot of detail that you can't just get with your paint. Then in the back of my little pouch, I have a pocket. I carry a glue stick. You remember I said we save labels and postcards and all that? So you got a glue stick. And then I carry my little scissors. And just for everybody's information, I would always go on the airplane carrying my supplies. Do not put the scissors in the pouch.
I was getting ready to say, I hope you put that in your checked luggage.
No, I didn't. I lost it. My scissors were confiscated. So that's just fair warning. You need to put that in the luggage that you check. But when I finish, this is it. And then, of course, whatever sketchbook you want, but make sure that you get good watercolor paper, at least 140 pound, because anything else will bleed through and you will not enjoy your sketches when you get home nearly as much. And since you just came from Sedona, I thought I'd show you some of the
I love it.
that I did. And now, Susie, this was done from the photographs that I took when I was taking a morning stroll away from the hotel. Just went back through the neighborhoods, took some pictures, came home and painted them in the hotel.
Do you remember what hotel you stayed in?
I've forgotten. It was out in the boondocks, but I can tell you what street this was on, Stutz Bearcat Drive. So you can look it up.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And Shoshana asked, she doesn't remember seeing you sketch in Beaufort, did you? And I know the answer to that, but go ahead and answer.
Well, I did a little bit. Just some really quick stuff. For instance, I got Max the horse. You remember him, Shoshana? And I sketched Sally Robinson's house
Mhm.
and the organ that we played. But that leads into the blog because I did a lot more sketching from Beaufort later.
Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that. She said, "Good old Max," and Katie said, "Gorgeous." So tell us more about the art class that you took, as far as when you found out about it. If I wanted to research a class in South Carolina or in Georgia or elsewhere, I mean, what do you think is the most important aspect of the class that you learned the most? I mean, obviously she was fantastic because she took you to France, but not everyone can do that. So, what would you say is really important about essential in a class to learn what
Well,
you experienced?
well, of course, not every artist teaches sketchbook journaling, and that just happened to be the way I use my energies later. But I started out just in a beginner class. I started with acrylics and oil, but our teacher insisted that we draw extensively. She said, you just got to have good, accurate drawings when you're working. And so, just over the months and the years, we would go to class every week. And if you just look around till you find a teacher that you feel like understands how to tell you what to do, so you are learning what you feel that you need to know. Um, and you may try one medium and then find another one suits you better, like I did. Um, County art associations almost always have classes that they offer for a very reasonable amount of money. Senior centers offer um, classes in art, and they'll have times on their schedule like ours does, where there's just open art, and you can just take your supplies and go sit with other people and just enjoy making art.
That's wonderful. And Karen wanted me to share her comment is reading Hither and Yon was so fun as I imagined Donette telling me all the stories and her lovely Southern accent. She also enjoyed her time with you in Beaufort. I love that.
Well, we had a little foursome with my sister Trish. Well, it was a fivesome because they shared the carpool with us, and we went on all the events with that group from Texas and North Carolina.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I was going to give a try. We talked about the blog that you wrote, and hopefully those of you that are here with us have read it. But if not, I'm going to try to pull it up here. So give me just a second. Let me know if I do this properly. Got a Chrome tab, and Donette, can you see the blog?
Yes, yes,
It
yes.
worked. It worked.
It starts with the Pat Conroy Literary Center. Can you scroll it?
I will. So I just wanted to let everybody know that this is on my website, which is Luxe, Luxe, lowcountrytravel.com, all that big long word. And this is her to me, the most poignant illustration. But there's so much. Tell me, when did you do this freehand, or did you have a photo and then you did it?
No. Well, I did take a photo
Okay.
of that from this angle after we had lunch at the urban market that day.
Right.
So I think I probably did more of it using the picture on my phone.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to have you just kind of we don't want to go into all the detail because people can read it, but just kind of give me an overview of your inspiration of what we're looking at. I know what it is, but you tell everybody what we're looking at here.
Well, this is the main old part of the Beaufort Inn at the very front where you go in to register. And that was where my sister and I stayed that week. And then Susie gave us this lovely seafoam blue travel cup. And we kept that with us all week.
Yeah, got to be sustainable travel so you're not having plastic water
Right?
bottles. Oh my gosh, I'm hungry right now. This was the yummy one of the many things from Debbie Covington's catering. Tell us about
Right.
this.
Well, it was only one thing. It was all I could figure out to draw. But those are little ham and brie paninis, teeny little, about as big as, not as big as a biscuit.
There, and then
And
you
of
showed
course,
us
there's that.
Max. Here comes Max again.
Yeah.
And then tell us about this wonderful place, what you can
Well,
remember.
this is the Tabernacle Baptist Church that was given to the slaves after the Civil War by the Union Army.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that I did not do this. I did this on my very first trip to Beaufort back in 2010 or so.
Well, thanks for letting
So
us
I
use it.
just took that from an old sketchbook.
Wonderful. And then here's the picture again, because we did the tour of the Pat Conroy Literary Center. And then we had, you guys, Donette entertained us with a pump organ. It was the most wonderful and silliest little moment of our trip. Tell
It was
everybody
so,
about this.
okay, it was so spontaneous. It's Sally Ann Robinson, who was one of Pat Conroy's students when she was in the 8th grade, now is an author herself, and she conducts these gullah tours out on Dofusky Island. So we had traveled all around, and she took us in one of the churches, and she points over here and she says, we've got this old pump organ that still works. Anybody know how to play it? Well, my sister Trish jumps up and says Donette can. So I go up and try to play it, and the pedals are so stiff I cannot pump. And my sister then says, come on, Brenda, we'll help her. And one of them got one foot on a pedal and the other one got the other foot on the pedal. And then I played Amazing Grace.
I know, we sang
And
it,
everybody sang.
and it was a group effort getting the pumping going. And then after that, we went and had lunch with Sally Ann Robinson at her house. And this is such a cute little drawing.
Yeah.
So what do you remember most about having lunch with Sally Ann?
Oh, just that little house was just amazing. It was so small and just filled with all of her memorabilia. You just, everywhere you turned, her things from her past and the island and the low country.
Absolutely.
And then on Saturday, we went to brunch at one of the elegant antebellum homes. And that's the front view and the pool view. And that one is looking out across the salt marsh out to the bay.
Right. And the uniqueness of being there was Pat Conroy was a guest at that home and worked on writing his first novel. And then we wrapped it up on a very cold night for March, and we had a low country boil. People call it low country boil and frogmore stew. Which way do you call it?
I say low country boil, but I know what they mean when they say frogmore stew.
Right, right.
It was just, everything about the trip was just exactly what you had expected for to be and what we were hoping for.
I'm so glad you came, and I wouldn't have met you had we not had that.
That's
so
right.
It was, I believe we meet people for reasons and there's no happenstance. So that was fantastic. So besides the blog, so Donette has written a memoir, she's written blogs, she's an illustrator. You're going to be teaching a class this summer at the senior center in your neighborhood, right?
Yes, that's right.
And tell us a little bit about that. I've already jumped and bought the books, and you go ahead and tell everybody about these real quick.
Okay, this Julia Cameron has been a favorite of mine for years. She wrote The Artist Way, and I had taught that years and years ago. And when I found out about this book, it is designed for people who are looking to recreate their lives in creative ways as they get older. So she's focusing on people who may be retiring and looking to have meaningful joy in their lives. And the way it came about, I'm sitting with my journal writing, and I had been reading the book, and I thought, I wish there were a class where I could talk about it with somebody, because it's kind of a workbook. It's set up like a workbook. And so I keep writing that day after day. And then I find myself writing, well, why not me? And so that week, I wrote a proposal to the senior center and suggested doing it. Turns out they've never had one of these kind of studies at that senior center. And so he said, okay, particularly since I was doing it for free.
You're giving. And so you referred me as well to this book, and tell everybody about why you recommend this one as well.
Joan Chittister wrote this, as I understand it, when she was 70 or approaching that. And her book is in small little chapters that are about all the things that we experience as we get older, like our memories, what we do with them, our regrets, and whether we let them hamper us and hold us back, or whether we use them and go forward. I've actually don't have a copy with me, so I can't remember the names of the chapters, but each one is just a little jewel to savor. You don't need to read that book straight through. You just take it slow.
Yeah, and you mentioned, we were talking beforehand, you mentioned that this would be something maybe nice during your quiet time if you have a morning routine of meditation and prayer or journaling. I really appreciate, as soon as she told me about the books, I'm like, whoop, got them both. So I just need to find time for that, which I will. Tell everybody, if they're in the Atlanta metro area and they wanted to take your class, it's 12 weeks long, right?
Yes.
And when does it start?
Well, it's going to start on the 6th of July, and the registration for the classes at the West Cobb Senior Center open, I believe he told me, on Monday, June 13, maybe. And it'll be open for about 2 weeks. But you do have to have a copy of the book. So I think the Senior Center charges sort of a minimal fee, and then I will get the books and furnish them for a nominal fee.
Now, I have a question for those that can't attend. Is it going to be recorded at all, or is that too much? Okay, it's an in-person.
It's not, and also it's very personal. People would not want to have these conversations and have them publicized.
Yeah, that's true. I just wanted to share this. Everybody can see why when I say, hey, grant StreamYard permission, it comes up as Facebook user, but if you gave permission, I could see who this was. But this person says, was glad I got the video of Donette playing the pump organ with help from Trish and Brenda. So I'm trying to remember who that was. Please let us know. Do you remember, Donette?
No, I don't.
Okay, so that's a mystery. So I would love to find a class like what you're doing at some point in time when I'm staying in one place for longer than 4 weeks. But that's the joy of travel. And what I wanted to share at the back of your wonderful memoir is just the way that you ended it, the very last sentence. There is still lots of time for more adventures. And then she shows us her picture off the coast of Nova Scotia. Do you have plans for another adventure? Can you inspire me?
Well, after all these years, you slow down a lot, Susie. You may not know that yet. No, but I took a trip 2 years ago, I guess it was, or I think 2, to Boston. And we flew and we walked all over everywhere and we were sweltering hot. And I said, I'm not doing this again.
Mhm.
So now when I can get in my car and drive from Georgia to South Carolina and have an experience like we had, I don't have to take those long trips.
Right.
But if I could go back and go to Greece or go back to England, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But you know, you have to know when you are up for it or when you're
Right.
not.
Right. And I think I shared with you, I think one of the reasons why I have a wanderlust spirit and one of the motivations for me being in the travel industry is, my mom passed away very young and did not get to travel to some of the places that I know she dreamt of. And I totally understand what you're talking about. A lot of people wait to travel until they retire or, in the later years. And physically, that might be too late because I'm 55 and I feel, sorry, I got the sun changing over here. I feel the jet lag a lot harsher. And it's not so easy to, hop on a plane and go to a different time zone and bounce up and be present. So I
But
understand.
on the other hand, I have traveled with people older than I am who, if you keep going and you keep your energy level up, there's no reason to stop traveling. But I do know my limits, and I think overseas air flights are the limit for me.
Yeah, I understand that. So we're at about a half hour, but I was wondering if you would treat us with just a little bit more of a reading from your memoir. Do you have something picked out?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got some little short stories that I'll do quickly. This chapter is entitled Stuff Just Happens When You're Out and About. And I started this chapter with a quote from Rabbi Harold Kushner, which says, expecting the world to treat you fairly because you're a good person is like expecting the bull not to charge you because you're a vegetarian. I love finding little quotes that fit the chapter. So anyway, one of the small pleasures of keeping a journal when you travel is having a record of little unexpected adventures. They are easy to forget, but so much fun to recall. For instance, while a friend and I were sketching the lovely fountain in the plaza of St. Paul de Vence, France, I sat on a low concrete wall beside the main walkway. A big black dog out for a walk with its owner came over to observe my work. He moved so close that his head hung over my sketchbook. When he walked away, I noticed that he had drooled on the page where I was painting. I made a note in the book about the incident and continued to paint. Noticing what had happened, an Australian lady spoke up. They have rabies in France. To which my friend Diane replied, thanks a lot. No charge, the lady said. At the same location that morning, a group of Japanese tourists noticed Diane and me at work and requested that we allow them to be photographed with the artists. Somewhere in Japan, two unidentified American women have a place in someone's photo album. And then another brush with an animal occurred during a trip to Spain. Our tour group was waiting to enter the Cathedral of Seville, standing alongside a horse-drawn carriage. As we inched forward, I was sketching, in my sketchbook, making notes in my journal, paying no attention to how close I was to the horse. Suddenly he turned, chomped down on the corner of my sketchbook. The teeth marks can still be seen at the edge of the page.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. I am like loving that, all the little animals. And I'm so sorry about my glare. I forget that we don't, like at the very top of my windows, we don't have any window coverings. I forget this time of day it comes in like this. So sorry guys that I'm in the shadow. So it was Shoshana that had the video of you. on the pump organ. I just figured that out when I was reading the comments here. So I just wanted to peek at my phone real quick to see if there's any other questions. Are you right? I have one for you. Are you going to write something else? Are you going to publish again?
Well, what I'm working on now is from a gift that I got for Christmas called Storyworth. If you have not looked into that website, it is a subscription, but they provide you a way to write memoir or write about yourself or your family or anything you want to write about. They furnish questions over the period of over a year. And then at the end of the time, for the price of the subscription, they publish your book in hardback.
Wow. It's called Storyworth?
Yes, Storyworth.
Wow. Okay.
So that is the writing that I'm doing right now. And since I am not a fiction writer and never could be, and I'm sure, I may have told all the stories about myself that I have to tell.
You never know. You never know. So someone asked, what, and this will be our last question before a little bit of book club business. What trip is most fun to draw or paint, or which trip was the most fun? I'm sorry. Which trip was the most fun?
I guess probably because it was the first one, and because we saw all those tiny little hilltop villages in France. I go back to that the most often. But everything in Europe is just sitting there waiting to be sketched everywhere you turn. And we take lots of pictures because you can sketch from pictures very easily. So
everybody, so Donette inspired me so much that I went out and I have not come, this is not what I could travel with, but I put together this little basket and it has, I don't know if this is the right weight, but a big old sketchbook. And then I have a little thing of paints. Oh, it's hard to show this on here, isn't it? So there's my show and tell, a little bit of paint. Yeah. And then Amazon has these awesome colored pencils. Well, it's hard to do. Anyway, but premium colored pencils. But my problem is this is the size of my journal for traveling, and I think I'm going to need something bigger. But I wanted something little to fit in a backpack, when you're out and about.
Well, this one that I had in Beaufort is really not, it's not even 8 by 10. And yet it's spiral bound and it has good heavy paper in it. So, you can, awesome. There's Jonathan's cake for the end of the.
Oh yeah. Did I forget to I don't remember. I missed it. I'm putting this up so I can block the sun. I'm sorry. This is so distracting.
That's okay.
Oh, goodness gracious. I had to do this during a webinar and it was so embarrassing because I was holding up a book. Donette, you're traveling right now, right?
I am. I'm in my sister's home in West Columbia, South Carolina. And our sister-in-law came with me from Pensacola, Florida. So we've got a little week of girl time.
That's wonderful. And I'm so glad you decided to join me and to join our virtual book club and the getaway. If it's okay with you, I'll give you some closing remarks and then I'll just talk about the book we're reading this month for our feature and what's next. But you go ahead and close out tonight. Donette, thanks for joining me.
Susie, you have really just spurred me on in ways that you probably don't even realize, because the trip to Beaufort really sort of set me on a new creative path. And by the time I got home and was working on your blog, and then these other things began to fall into place, it has been a marvelous spring. So thank you.
You're so welcome. You are so welcome. And some folks are saying, I wish I could sketch like that. So speaking of book club, I don't know how I'm going to do all this, but I'm going to try. I'll hold your book here and then, okay. So you guys, this month we are reading Bronte's Mistress by Finola Austin. This is the paperback version. My friend Karen Dreher met me for lunch because she's the one who won 6 months or a year worth of books through my drawing last year. And so when I was sending her her book, for some reason, the one I ordered for me ended up with her. So, but this is the way it looks for the cardback. So it's totally two different looks, which is kind of interesting. But so we are meeting with, I'm looking for my notes. I don't have Melissa with me tonight and I can't find it, but we're reading Bronte's Mistress this month, and which is May, and we will be talking with her at the end of the month or the first part of June. I will post that. And then in June, remember meeting John Worley? He was one of the friends of Pat Conroy that was on the panel. We are reading his novel called Southern Girl in the month of June, and we will meet with him in July. So that's all I'm going to say for now. The love of the virtual book club is you can take it when you can join us when you want, and come and meet with the authors like Donette. And I just want to say that, Donette, you've almost broke the record for author attendance. Right this minute, we've got 20 live. That's big. That's actually big because usually everybody watches on the replay later on. So I just wanted to say thank you again. If anybody has any questions about the virtual book club, post them in the Facebook group or send me an email at susie@travelbysusie.com. And I'm going to sign us off. Donette, you stay there so we can have our post talk. And thanks again for joining me tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. I really have loved it.
Wonderful. Goodbye, everybody.